Hi, welcome to my video on the inverse of a cubic and a cubic root functions, part 2. This video has only one question and we will solve. The f of x equals x minus 2 all cubed plus 1. And that's a cubic equation. Again, the cubic equation is a sideways s. And the h of x equals x minus 1. So that's a linear y equals mx plus b, a line. So if f to the negative 1 and h to the negative 1 are equal, find the points of intersection. Well, let's first find the inverse of each. And then when we get the inverse of each, we'll make them equal and solve and find the point of intersection. So the f of x equals x minus 2 all cubed plus 1, left off the plus 1. So make the f of x of y. Interchange the y to an x, so better be careful. A y to an x and an x to a y, because it's reflected in the line y equals x. So x plus 1 becomes a minus 1. Cube root, we have to do the cube root of each side, so it's the cube root of x minus 1. And the cube root of y minus 2 squared is a y minus 2. So that's the cube root of x minus 1 plus 2. And that's the inverse of the f of x is the cube root of x minus 1 plus 2. Okay, now we got to get the inverse of the h of x. So the h of x is a y. And we change the y to an x and an x to a y. And we solve for y. So it's x plus 1. So h to the negative 1 of x is x plus 1. So notice the inverse of subtracting 1 is adding 1 in terms of the linear. And the two slopes are the same. So we want to find out when the f of negative x is equal to the h of negative x. Their inverses are equal. So that means the cube root of x minus 1 plus 2 is equal to x plus 1. Okay, and what we have is we have a cube root. So we have, I'm going to isolate the cube root, x plus 1 minus 2. So the cube root of x minus 1 equals x minus 1. So I have the cube root is isolated. So now I'm going to cube each side. So I got a cube there and a cube there. So the cube of the cube root is just what's underneath the root. Now I have an x minus 1 cubed. One way to do it would be to take x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 1. So I can do that and do the FOIL on it. So I have, if I want, x minus 1, and this is two binomials multiplied by each other, so I can get x squared minus x plus 1. So that's an x minus 1. And this simplifies to x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now I'm going to multiply that out. X times this trinomial gives me x cubed minus 2x squared plus x. Now I'm going to take the negative 1 and multiply by this trinomial to get a negative x squared plus 2x minus 1. And I have an x cubed. X squared is negative 2, negative 1, so it's a negative 3x squared. X plus 2x is 3x. And we have a negative 1. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And let's try it another way. And another way would be to take a Pastel's triangle and go 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, and 1, 3, 3, 1. So Pastel's triangle, we have x minus 1 cubed. So that means if we think about Pastel's triangles, we have an a being cubed plus a squared b plus ab squared plus b cubed. So notice the the degree is always 3 to each of these terms. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3. And the a goes down by 1 and the b goes up by 1. And so I have a 3. This is 0 power, this is the 1 power, this is a square, this is a cube. So that 3 coefficient goes there. There's the 1 there, 3 there, 3 there, and a 1 there. So what we have is we have an a plus b cubed. So the a is x and the b is -1. So the a is x and a is x and b is -1. So a is x and b is -1. So I have a sub in. So cube, that's an x cubed. That's a negative 3x squared. That's a positive, so it's a positive 3x. -1 cubed is -1. So the two of these should be the same, and they are. So that means I'm just reviewing Pastel's triangle or doing the FOIL on multiplying the binomials. But anyway, I have an x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x minus 1, just to make sure. X cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x minus 1. Notice the minus 1's cancel out. And I'm going to let 0, so if I take the x cubed and move over here and make it negative, but I'm going to let it 0, I'm going to let the 0 stay on the left and go x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x minus x. The 1's cancel out, so that gives me x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x. Every cubic has 3 roots, and it could be 3 real roots, it could be 1 real root, 2 imaginaries, but let's solve and see. Notice that x is common, so I take the x out, so I get an x squared minus 3x plus 2. That's a quadratic, and hopefully it's factorable. Let's see if it's factorable. X squared is x and x. The factors of 2 are 2 and 1. Because the product is plus 2 and the sum is -3. Because the product is positive, that means we have to have 2 negatives or 2 positives. So it's 2 negatives because the sum is negative. So we have x minus 2, x minus 1, multiply. -2, -1 is 2, add -3, perfect. So that means we have x is equal to 0, or we have x minus 2 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. So we have to take these values of x and sub it into one of these where we made them equal. So we made them equal. We're right here. So it's easier to sub it into this inverse of h because it's x plus 1. Rather than I could sub it in the f to the -1 or h, because that's linear, let's sub it into the h of -1, x equals x plus 1. So that's y equals x plus 1. So when x is 0, so x is 0, so I'm going to put a 0 in place of x right here. So 0 plus 1, so y is 1, so that means x is 0, y is 1. Now I'm going to take x to be Oh, I didn't solve this one out. X to be 2 and X to be 1. So solve them out. X minus 2 is 0, X is 2. X minus 1 is 0, X is 1. So X is 2. So I'm putting 2 in the place of X. So it's 2 plus 1. So Y is equal to 3. So 2 gives me a 3. And X is 1. And X is 1, so it's 1 plus 1. Again, I'm taking this X, subbing it in here. And Y is 1 plus 1 is 2. So X is 1, Y is 2. And to check to see if you're right, I subbed it into here. Now you can take and sub it into here to see if you're right. So you put a 0 in here. You get negative 1. Cube root of a negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Take a 2 and sub in here. 2 minus 1 is 1. Cube root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. And it looks like we're okay. Now we're going to put 1 in here. 1 in here gives me a 0. Cube root of 0 is 0. So we get y is 2. So the solutions are correct. These are the 3 points. So, but notice, okay, just want to correct that there. That's an X just to make sure. Now, I solved it algebraically and got 3 points of intersection. But what I want to do is, what about we graph them just to see what's happening? So notice I have the inverse of x written down. I have the inverse of h written down. This is a cubic root. So what I do when I do these roots, I like to put in what gives me a 0 underneath this root. So I'm going to put a 1 in. If you put a 1 in, you get a 0. The cube root of 0 is 0, so I get a 2. Now I need a cube root, so I need to put a 0 in. So I put a 0 in the place of x. The cube root of negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Now I need to put a 2 in. So, because I need the cube root of 1. So 2 gives me a 2 minus 1 is 1. The cube root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 2. So I put a 2 in. I get a 3. And if I put, let's see, I got 2, put a 0 in. So if I put a 0 in, I get a negative 1. Cube root of negative 1 is 1. Cube root of negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. And we put a 7 negative. Why that? Because I got the cube root of negative 1. I need the cube root of negative 8, perfect cube. So I need a negative 7. Negative 7 minus 1 is negative 8. Cube root of negative 8 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And just to make a little bit, let's put a 9 in, go further. Put a 9 in, and I get an 8. The cube root of 8 is 2, so 2 plus 2 is 4, so 9 gives me a 4. Okay, we have that one. Let's plot that one now. So we have 9, x is 9, y is 4. X is 9, y is 4. That's right there. X is 2, y is 3. X is 2, y is 3. That's right there. X is 0, y is 1. X is 0, y is, or no, we got x is 0. Oh, I got 2 zeros here. Notice I didn't. X is 2, y, x is 1, y is 2. I had 2 of these in here. I did a 0 and then I went higher, but I didn't need the 2 of these because it worked out twice. So a 0 gives me a 1. Okay. So 9, just check, 9 gives me a 4. 2 gives me a 3. 1 gives me a 2. 0 gives me a 1. And negative 7 gives me a 0. So notice this cubic graph, cube root graph, is coming in like this. It's like a sideways S, but it's reflected. So this is the graph that we have. And trying to make that straight, but we have a sideways S. And if I just turn it sideways just for a second, you can see there's the sideways S. If you had a cubic, but this is a cube root, so it goes the other way because of the inverse. Now we got all these points done. Now we need, this is a linear, so this is, I can do a table of values, or I can do y equals x plus 1. So I could say that y equals mx plus b. I could say the slope is 1, which is 1 over 1, and the y-intercept is 1. So I could plot that right here. So the y-intercept is 1, which is right. I'm going to do that in red just to distinguish it. It's not an inverse, but well, let's do it in green so it won't be an inverse again. So I have the y-intercept is 1, and the slope is up 1, right 1. Up 1, right 1. Up 1, right 1. So it's going through the 3 of these points. So there it is, going through the 3 points. So there's your line. That's the line. Again, it's not. This is the inverse of h, but this is h negative 1 of x is x plus 1. So it passes here, here, and here, which is x is 0, y is 1. Notice x is 1, y is 2. And we have x is 2, y is 3. So I did it graphically to show you. Another way, if I want, I could do a table of values. If x is 0, y is 1. If x is 1, y is 2. If x is 2, y is 3. If x is negative 1, y is 0. Oops, we should go through there if I did it off a little bit. Should go to that point also, but I didn't line it up correctly. But so I have the 3 points. So I just wanted to do the algebra of it and the geometry of it to show you why there's 3 points of intersection here between the cube root and the linear. So that brings us to the end of this video. Again, a beautiful question because it does not only the inverses, but it does solving the algebra too. Excellent. And if you like my video, click the like button. If you want to be a subscriber, click the subscribe button. If you're not already a subscriber, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content that I have on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained, which is just one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video helped you. Bye-bye.